The Deadmines is one of the most beloved 5-man dungeons in all of WoW. If you were to ask someone why the Deadmines is a popular instance, you'd probably get answers like, maybe it's just nostalgia attached to the first dungeons a lot of players ever experienced, or they'd probably talk about how the pirate ship inside the cave was reminiscent to something like the Goonies. Or they'd bring up how it was designed with like actual RPG elements in mind. Like when you either have to have a rogue in the group unlock the last door of the dungeon, otherwise you have to blow it up with the gunpowder you find. And all of those things would be true, but I've always thought there is kind of a massive unnoticed success in how well the Deadmines defines the lower level dungeon. Vanilla WoW is the only part of the game where Blizzard let themselves explore what the tone of a low-level dungeon could feel like, which it makes sense. Every expansion after that was meant to be a continuation of the in-game that originally started at level 60. So it's in this tiny section of the leveling experience that Blizzard had a chance to pull it off, and I think they did so fantastically. At its best, I like to compare the original Deadmines dungeon to the Fellowship of the Ring, where the feeling of epic scale adventure comes from feeling small in a big mysterious world. In this video, I want to talk about what a Deadmines run was like back in Vanilla WoW, but rather than just tell you, I want to try to show you. This is part 1 of a series where I'm going to try my best to simulate what a Deadmines run could entail. I want to highlight the things that I want to talk about, and then I'm going to let the audience decide what the focus of the next video should be. Okay, how's that sound? Is that confusing? I think it might be a little bit. Let's just do it.
The Deadmines! Yeah!
Okay, so let's say you're about a low-level rogue just doing quests in Westfall, which is, only the second zone in the game for you. The whole time you've been fighting this gang of outlaws known as the Defias. And back in town, this guy Brian Stoutmantle gets fed up and decides it's time to find the Defias home base. He tells you to go to Red Ridge, which is on the opposite side of the known world to you. He tells you to do this because there's a rogue there that owes him a favor named Wily the Black. So you run all the way there, which takes some time on foot. When you get to Red Ridge, you find the rogue upstairs at the inn, and he immediately spills the beans on the Defias boys. He writes a note and begs you to keep it secret. It's actually hilarious how fast he narcs to someone who just says they were sent by a cop. This guy is a snitch. So anyway, you run all the way back to Brian Stoutmantle, and before you can even catch your breath, he tells you to drag your level 17 ass back to Stormwind. Apparently, Wily the Black was too low level of a rogue. So again, you start running all the way back to Stormwind. It's a good time to put on your headphones or something. So you get to King Rogue, and he tells you the leader of the Defias is his childhood friend, Edwin Van Cleve. He's pissed off at Stormwind for some money they never paid him, and that's why he and the Defias turned to a life of crime and wearing red bandanas and setting farms on fire, I guess. So you run all the way back to Westfall one more time. I don't know why they only let strong people ride on horses in this world. It's a weird rule. You get back to Grind and tell him about Shaw's old boyfriend Van Cleve. Since you've run out of zones you can run around in at your level, he gives you a filler quest to hunt down one random Defias somewhere in these areas. After you knock that out, as a cherry on the birthday cake, he wants you to do an escort mission with the Defias Trader that's supposed to lead you straight to the entrance of the Defias Clubhouse. Now this is annoying because the Defias Trader is pretty much always busy escorting someone else. While you're waiting, you notice another player, a Night Elf hunter named Vegeta King and his owl Divorce. The two of you decide to party up for the next Defias Trader run, and while you clear the way for the Defias to walk to the barn, you chat a little and joke. Turns out you're both fans of Dragon Ball Z and video games. What are the odds? He makes a Family Guy joke, and you pretend to laugh. See, your parents don't let you watch Family Guy. But you've heard these references enough times to piece together the joke, you're fine. After you turn in this quest, you both finally receive the quest to enter the Deadmines. You're told that somewhere inside these mines is Edwin Van Cleve, and Brian wants his severed head, is what he asks for. So you and your new bud, Vegeta King, decide to team up. You head to the entrance of the dungeon and start spamming chat for more party members. It takes about 20 minutes, but you eventually invite a resto druid named Morning Glory, and an almost too high level 23 gnome mage named Blue Tips. You're all gathered outside the entrance, all you need is a tank, but here it is, despite how long you spam chat, no one seems to be available. The minutes pass, and to ease your boredom, you inspect a slightly higher leveled rogue passing by with his group into the dungeon, and that's when you see it. The blue quality sword he's carrying called the Cruel Barb. It's amazing. It's the type of sword that level 19 twinks would use in Battlegrounds for years. You beg him to tell you where to find it, and he reveals it drops from the last boss in the dungeon Edwin Van Cleave. You want that sword more than anything you've wanted since you created this character, but things aren't looking good for your group. It's now been half an hour and you still haven't found a tank. Your heart starts to sink as the healer says she has to log off in 10 minutes if the group can't find someone. The group is unraveling, and you can feel your dream of wielding the cruel barb for 5 to 7 levels starting to fade right in front of you. But then, a stroke of luck whispers you. A level 17 dwarf named Duncan volunteers a tank for your group. By all accounts, the dwarf isn't ready to handle tanking an instance like this, but your group, out of desperation, decides to take him in. Against all odds, your party enters the Deadmines. Like the awkward growing pains of puberty, not everyone's class is fully equipped to deal with the challenges of this dungeon. You can tell the tank Duncan is struggling to keep aggro, and he's not quite sure what he's doing. And this is partially exacerbated by Blue Tips, the higher level mage that perhaps isn't giving the tank enough time to build threat. You can tell the mage is partially enjoying showing off how much damage she's able to output. This imbalance in the group reaches a breaking point at the first boss of the dungeon, the ogre Rhahk'Zor. His only ability is a stun. As long as you can focus him on the tank and the 2 other adds in the room, this fight shouldn't be a real challenge. But of course, it looks like the mage decides to go full Super Saiyan 64 right away. The chaos of the tank not being able to hold aggro on this boss eventually wipes the group on the first pull. You've all just resurrected when the tank announces that his tendies are ready and he'll be back in 2 minutes. While he's AFK, Blue Tips suggests kicking him. She insists he's too low level, and if the group is interested, her level 40 warlock boyfriend could run us all through the dungeon. She even guarantees you'll get the cruel barb if it drops. Meanwhile, Morning Glory suggests the group can just coach Duncan on how to tank a little better. She seems to have hope in his abilities despite his level and poor gear. As party leader, the choice is ultimately yours. Do you defend Duncan the tank? Or do you kick him for failing on the first boss? Or is there something else you want to see happen? Let me know in the comments. I'm going to be going with whatever seems to be the most popular answer. Like and subscribe if you want to see what happens next in part 2.